Hello, I'm Susana, and this is the Susana Gibb Show. On the podcast with me today is Claire Morales. She is a lot of things, a lot. She's an artist, she's a musician, she's a graphic designer. We were talking about the art that she made in her studio behind her before we even started, and I'm excited for you guys to get to talk to her today. I'm going to go with the whole music theme today because our sponsor, Gibb Insurance Services, we don't get a ton of requests for this, but I think it's interesting to mention. She mentioned all the records that she has in her office. Records, albums, cameras, jewelry, art. We often schedule these things on a policy called a personal articles floater. We've even done somebody's Star Wars collection because it's things that have a very specific value. And so you want to go ahead and list them on the policy ahead of time. That way, if there's a claim, you can go back and say, hey, that particular David Bowie album was actually worth X. And then it's listed on the policy for X. And the underwriter and the adjuster says, oh, great, then we'll pay X. And so that's why it's important to list those things out on a personal articles floater. Thank you for being with me today. And thank you, Claire, for being with me today as well.
Thanks for having me.
I'm super excited to talk to you. I'm going to just jump in because I was reading some quotes about you, and D Magazine called you Denton's best young singer-songwriter. What did you think about that when you heard that? Were you like, I am a total badass? And how old were you when they said that?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. It was a few years ago, and I do remember some friends of mine kind of being like, young? You're not, like, I think I was maybe in like my late 20s or early 30s whenever that came out. Yeah, it's always a little tricky to fully believe really positive, almost hyperbolic, like praise like that. It's always like, oh, that's very kind. But I think I always sort of had this inkling in my mind that they're just like being nice, even though I know that's not the truth.
Interesting. So I'm not going to ask you how old you are, but I can tell you I can't tell how old you are. It was interesting when you just said, well, I was in my 20s, because I was like, I think she's in her 20s right now.
No, I don't mind saying I'm 35. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. You have such a young whole demeanor. And I mean that very positively.
Yeah.
It's you.
Yeah.
So the other thing I read is that you started gigging at 13.
hmm Yes.
When I was acting, I often worked with child actors. My kids actually worked on a couple jobs, and overall, I'm not a huge fan of this. I feel like it's really hard on kids because they're around adults all the time when they just kind of need to be kids.
Sure.
And especially they're hanging around with adults. Like there were adults instructing my kids, and I was like, man, you can't talk to a kid like that. That's not the best way. They're not trained to deal with kids. But you were gigging at 13. When you think about that time now, how do you feel about that? Did you just grow up so fast, or?
I mean, in some ways, yes. I think, yeah, like performing and making art and doing it in such a public way, in a sense, yeah, I think you do grow up a little bit quicker, just being dealt with like you're the talent or like commodity or something. But also, I think it kind of does keep you young to, yeah, to just do what you're really passionate about, and yeah, so I think it's a bit of a mix.
What did your parents say about this when you were like, "Hey, mom, I'm going to go to this coffee shop and I'm going to play for some strangers," or were they like, "Let's find a coffee shop for you to play as strangers"?
Yeah, my dad played music and performed when I was a small child. So it felt very normal. It felt very like accessible in a sense. And my mom always wanted to help in whatever way she could. She did like talk to a local coffee shop, and she sort of negotiated me out of getting paid at all, though I will say she was like, she's 13, she doesn't need money. And I was like, wow, like, cut me off the legs here. Yeah, just she but no, that they've always been really supportive and helpful. And yeah, I was a pretty shy kid, so having somebody to help advocate for you was nice. Yeah, my mom has always done that, and my dad's always been very supportive as well.
Let's talk about that. I was going to get into that in a minute, but since you opened it up, how does a shy kid get up on stage in front of people?
That's a great question. There's something about having a script that I find really freeing and liberating in day-to-day life. I don't always know what to say or do. I mean, and I've come out of my shell a lot since then, but I remember being a really small kid and just being like kind of lost for words. So having that plan almost where it's like, here's what you say, here's what you do. It I found it um to be really helpful. Yeah. And freeing.
How would you practice that ahead of time? Would you write it out? Would you play for stuffed animals in the room or
Yeah. No, I would rehearse a lot and just plan my set list and run it a million times, you know. Yeah, and I found that that always made me feel really prepared and yeah, I don't know, it's like it's a strange thing. It feels like standing on stage should be this terrifying thing, but I think it was so much more calming than the rest of life, you know, at the time.
does how you prep now that now obviously you were 13 and now you've done how many gigs do you think you've done?
Oh, it's hard to say. I would say it's definitely in the thousands somewhere, but I don't know. I don't know where. I'm not a great numbers person or dates person, but I know it's been quite a few.
How does your prep how is it different now? What do you do now before you go on stage to, whether it's a small crowd, a big crowd, does that change how you prepare?
In some ways, I mean, the biggest difference is having a band now. So I do feel more of a leadership role in a sense, or just having to, um, summon a group versus myself and prepare as a group versus solo. So that's changed it. We'll do rehearsals, and I just try to get really centered and calm, and I do some mindfulness stuff like little light meditation. I like yoga and Pilates and things like that, and I do think those practices kind of help the nerves and all that. But it's also something that I don't feel as nervous about as I once did. I think the confidence comes from the repetition.
Interesting. How do you describe yourself as a leader? Like, do you have a certain type that you like to emulate, or is this something you're conscious of?
I mean, I always try to be a good leader. I don't know that I have like a model, but it's more that I've seen the pitfalls around me. I see leaders who get really, self-focused or just, have more of a mind for themselves than their team. So I try really hard to just think like what does my team need? Like how can I serve them and like lead with that? I'm lucky enough to have graphic design and other ways to support myself. So it's always just like, top of mind that I need to make sure that my band gets what they need, just in terms of whatever we get paid and support and just not being so self-focused that you lose sight of, yeah, how everyone else is feeling and what they need.
So I think this is we were talking about your t-shirt before we got
Yes.
started. Would you explain your t-shirt again if you would?
Yes, yes. It says, sorry, I can't talk. I'm thinking about the 1997 performance at Silver Springs, where Stevie Nicks stares a hole through Lindsey Buckingham. And it's a Fleetwood Mac shirt. And it's alluding to this performance where she is essentially just singing a song about him to him with total eye contact at one point. And I mean, it is a powerful moment.
Yes.
Kind of a surreal performance. It's one of those that like, it's been going around the internet a little bit lately, the clip, and rightfully so. It's just the impact of it, and also just I don't know how that band was able to just keep going with so much conflict and history and dysfunction, but it's kind of it's remarkable, but it's definitely not how I'm trying to be as a band.
How do you guys right. So let's maybe not to that extreme level of
Yeah.
conflict, but how do you guys as a band deal with conflict or even not even conflict, but just even in the whole idea of, hey, we're going to work on this song and everybody has different ideas, right? So even just a differing idea of like, well, it often strengthens the song, but it can feel like conflict and challenge at the time. Yeah, you guys deal with that.
I mean, I think I try to create an environment where it's like we are just trying to get to the best end product, and like I try not to personalize criticism or feedback, and just allow everybody to like, let's try it. Let's see what works best. Like I often will arrive to practice with, fully formed songs. But there's always room for everyone writes their own parts. And, sometimes someone will say, this part's a little too long, or like, let's add here, let's take this away. And I think design school really helped me to accept feedback and criticism in a non-personal way, if that makes sense. So I try to just like summon that and create a culture of like, yeah, we're just trying to get the best end product.
Yeah, the hard part about feedback is that you absolutely need it, right?
Yes.
You can't sometimes see the things. You need the feedback from somebody else, but it can be so hard to just set that aside. And there is an art to giving feedback, I learned throughout the
Oh,
years of,
definitely.
besides the sandwich method, which I think everybody knows, but just
Mhm.
the coming from a place of I'm going to help. And then again, telling people that are like, "Hey, listen, I didn't ask for your help. I don't want your feedback this time." Right? Or and then the other phrase I just learned was dream killing, which I think I may have been guilty of in some occasions where I thought I was just giving honest feedback and it was a dream kill.
Oh, yes. No, I've done that myself. I think I've, gotten used to just receiving very clear, honest feedback, in my professional life. And so sometimes I'll just sort of like dish it to artists and they're like, whoa. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. let me, let me rephrase that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when I first got my agents, I was always scared to go in there because they were very honest about, wow, you look tired today, Susanna. What's going on with your hair today, Susanna?
God.
Yeah. And later I was like, if they were like, your hair looks good, I was like, oh my God.
They're not lying.
Right. Total honest compliment. You walk in and you feel like they see through you to whatever emotional thing. I was like, oh, I'm okay.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's very much how like design school was for me. My professors, like, I mean, there were some things that I'm like, that didn't need to be like that. They would just like bring scissors and cut up our work and be like, that's bad. Like or just like, yeah, I got used to some really harsh and intense and direct feedback then. So,
So I'm going to go back to you and some of the quotes that I read about you because they call D Magazine, again, I'm going back to them. Apparently they love you. They called you a brilliant artist with one of the best live shows in North Texas. Do you feel pressure when you're designing a show? You're like, oof, okay, I'm going to bring more, right? Because they also said you have a fearless voice, you have a dramatic first impression. How does that change? Does it affect you, or is it just like I'm making my art and let the critics love or hate me as it is?
yeah, I think it's more the latter, or I tried to make it
Okay.
more the latter. Yeah, I think I'm always just trying to make it better than it was the last time. And that's an easy metric to just be like, all right, let's just keep kind of incrementally getting better in whatever way we can. And I think, I think of tours and it's very iterative. It's like you're playing essentially the same set again and again. And it's a great opportunity to hone the little things and make things just that much better each time. So that's kind of the philosophy I try to enter in with. And I don't worry too much about what people say. I mean, if they were like, she has one of the worst live shows in Dallas, I might be like, all right, let's take some videos of us and like watch and figure out what's going wrong. But yeah, south of that, I just try to like, yeah, just make a show that I would like to watch and do my best and just get that much better each time. That's the goal.
Well, I've had a good time looking at your graphic novel and listening to your music. Will you talk a little bit about the decision to, well, yes, tell me about this process and we'll get to, because we haven't talked about your new album or the book, but I don't know how to talk about one without the other and then the process of how you came up to it. So that's a big, ginormous question in one. Good luck.
No, I love it. And I love, the way that you phrased it of just like not being able to talk about one without the other, because that was very much the goal. I wanted it to be just like this album and the graphic novel or companion pieces and complete each other. And I've always thought of art as like, you have all these mediums of expression, but it's all kind of the same thing, whether it's a song or a drawing. It's really just trying to express something. And so, yeah, I wanted to, I'm a very visual person, and I had this world in my mind, and I don't have the budget to create, like a movie of the album. So I was like, let's do a graphic novel. And it was a bit of like, writing a song and then visualizing it, or, drawing a series of scenes and then writing the songs that fit that. So it was a bit of like back and forth. I find it easier to, kind of give everything something to tether it, whether it's like the music or the art, they kind of inform each other. So yeah, the process was very back and forth, and the two were pretty linked, in terms of like creation.
So tell us the name of the album and the book.
They're both titled Lost in the Desert. Yes.
And this was inspired by
Trips to Joshua Tree and tours out west, really. Yeah. And then also solo van journeys, which happened kind of in between and after all that.
So there's something, I mean, the desert is almost like its own character, right? Like there have been so many shows and movies, and the desert is this mystical place where people go to escape and or hide, oftentimes in many iterations. And the irony for me, of course, is there's nowhere to hide in the desert. You can't hide at all. And there's this finding of self. Um, Even you think about like the Doors going to the desert. Like these are things that I remember growing up, right? Watching the Doors go to the desert, and more recently, No Country for Old Men is in the desert, and there's nowhere to hide, right? And that's where you find yourself. Where did you go in Joshua Tree, or with? Because Joshua trees are the actual trees, not necessarily. There's not a town called Joshua Tree.
There is a town called Joshua Tree, and there's Joshua Tree National Park, but I really definitely
Yes, you're right.
Area, yeah, yeah, no,
Springs-ish, right?
Yes, it's near Palm Springs, Yucca Valley, 99. What is it called? 21 Palms, some number of palms. Yeah, it's. I think what you said is spot on. It's very stark. There's nowhere to hide, and I think the whole concept of the album was the protagonist going out and thinking like, I'm gonna, escape everything, but really that's where you go to find yourself, and to have this journey, and to uncover all the things that you need to know, everything you've been like running from. That was the idea. And I mean, it definitely happened to me in a sense. Like I've always found travel to be really revealing of just the things I've been hiding from in myself and in the world. And it all just kind of comes out when there's nothing else but the road.
You and space and time.
Yes, very much so.
I want to talk about, I flipping love this title. I don't want to be in your cult.
I don't want to join your cult. I don't want to wear all the same clothes. I don't want.
Were you invited to be in a cult? Which is like, that's really nice. Thank you so much for thinking of me to be in your cult, but I'm going to pass. Or is it more of a metaphorical cult?
Both. It's funny. I wrote the song, and then I did have a friend in LA sort of ask me to be a part of this thing that I'm like, I think that's a cult.
Oh.
But no, I when I wrote it, it was very much, metaphorical. I was thinking about all the groups that like we elect to be a part of, and like what we give up of ourselves to do it, and that could be a job, that could be a family, a romantic relationship, a friendship. There's so many, just like unions with other people that we decide to engage in, and how much of ourselves are we willing to give up in order to be a part of it, and how does what we do, the way we like behave, the way we dress, what we eat, all these things, how could it change just as a part of a group? So that was
Your
it.
favorite?
Yes.
Yeah, I love it. What was your favorite song on the album?
YVB, definitely.
Wanna get out of town. This place is grinding you down. You crave the sight and sound.
Yeah.
Oh, it is? Why?
I think I just was really happy with the way that it turned out in terms of like it has these big dynamic shifts. It's very epic. There's some really interesting instrumentation. We had a lot of friends play on it. Our friend Leon Carlo, he's incredible violinist, and he just layered, all kinds of things on there. And yeah, there's just something about it tonally that I think is really captivating, and it feels like you're getting into the desert. And this is the moment where like you thought, you were arriving for one task or on one mission, and it's like something totally different is unfolding. So yeah, it's my favorite one.
What was we'll just call it, what was your problem child song
Mm.
where you thought, man, this one, I can't find the lick or the chorus, or it's just like
I
it's in
mean,
my butt?
yeah, there were a few that took a little longer than others. I think like actually the title track "Lost in the Desert" was not in terms of writing, but in terms of production, kind of our problem child, where I think there was this kind of pressure for it to be so good because it's the title track.
It's
And
the
I think,
title, right?
yeah. And so me and Alex Hastings, who's my guitarist, who also, we co-produced it together. We both were sort of just like, how do we make this song the best that it could be? And that's another one where it's like, there's almost two worlds at play, where in the verses and the choruses, there's this one vibe. And then there's this kind of like dreamland that's another. And yeah, how do you make those things feel cohesive? How do you just like make it all work together? So that one took some time and was maybe a little harder than others, weirdly.
What do you guys think about, because a lot of the book, there's a female protagonist, right?
Right.
In the book. Um, and there is a lot of uh, what I took out of it were feminine themes. Do guys resonate with this as well, or do they recognize it as a female journey, or what's
Yeah,
been some of the feedback that you've gotten?
that's a good question. I think for the most part, men have understood it and engaged with it. And I think it's interesting because so much of media is like a male protagonist, and there's not a lot of concern about like, is this isolating women? Are women able to relate to this? But then when it's, a female, that is always a question. I've noticed that, even in my design work, where it's like, it's always the concern is like, oh, is it too feminine, and never like, is it too masculine? And will women, so yeah, I think the reason I wanted it to be a woman is because I'm a girl. And then also, I just really wanted to depict a solo female odyssey. I think it's something that you so rarely see. And yeah, just getting into traveling and things like that. When I'm traveling alone in my van, across the country, people are always so worried and concerned and just like, oh, I can't believe you're doing this. Like, so I just wanted to like sort of, it's like a demonstration of strength where it's like, look, here it is. You can do it too. And yeah,
I
long
really
answer.
love it.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's a continuous shift. And I asked this question of multiple people. And so
Mm-hmm.
for those of you listening who've been with me for a while, bear with me as I go through this yet again. But the when I was first acting, they're like, well, women don't drive. The women aren't the drivers. They're not the economic drivers. So we're going to put the men in the leads and the women in all the supporting roles. And I think we as women grew up with male protagonists. And so we can identify it with male or female. And I feel like it's shifting as there are more female protagonists, and men are either growing up getting used to it, or they're becoming more accustomed to it, that they can identify with female protagonists, where that's kind of a newer thing, right? And obviously we're seeing more stories with women and driving. And I love this story. I was watching my younger son. At the time, he was probably like 10 or 11, and his little buddy was over, and they were watching Big Hero 6, I think. It was the cartoon show, and there was a episode where his Big Hero 6's little friend was a girl, and she was getting her period. First off, I was amazed it was on TV, honestly, and that they were talking about it. And then I listened to these boys just go, oh, yeah, my sister's had her period. And they just talked about it like it was normal. In my heart,
Yeah, I
I loved it, right?
yeah.
And that it's not a huge thing. So I don't ask it from a place of, I'm just curious to see how close people are to seeing it as more of like, because it is a feminine journey, but there are obviously things that we can all relate to
Right. Yeah,
in
like
that
human
story.
journey too. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And I think it's important. I think it's important for us all to be able to relate to and be curious about journeys that are not necessarily, us as the lead. And I think, like you said, it's like women have done that for so long, and it's probably a good thing for men to do too.
So I'm going to try and ask this question in a way that doesn't spoil the ending. And if I don't, then I will cut it and fix it. But um, I, the whole, I'm now a master Reiki. I don't practice with anybody, but I've seen multiple Reiki people throughout the course of it. And the one Reiki woman that I loved and resonated with has since passed on. And there are things that we did not get to finish. Like there were things that she was trying to work with me on that I tried to ask my second Reiki lady, and she was like, no, that's not a thing. And your book answered it.
Oh,
It was. It was like it was the answer to this question of, self and identity and labels. And I'm dancing super hard around not giving it away for anybody who's actually reading the book. So hopefully you understand where I'm headed with this, right?
yeah, yeah,
Because I was like, oh, there it is. This is the thing I've been talking about with everything. And I was like, this woman doesn't seem old enough to have had this really kind of interesting journey and to be able to put it into a book so beautifully. I was so impressed by this, and I'm curious how you obviously had this journey to be able to write about it,
yeah.
and yet you do seem very young for this, my dear.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of this book came out of a time in my life where I thought I had everything figured out, and I was very wrong, and I had to kind of grapple with that. And yeah, just face that, like, growing means leaving past selves behind, and like what do you leave and what do you keep. And it was just a real moment of like, yeah, grappling with that. um so I think, yeah, it's something that was, it's one of those things of like, I think we want the journey to be this upward trajectory, like where, we do this and then this and then this and then you ascend. And it's not always like that. I think sometimes to go forward, you do have to like dive deep into the depths. And yeah, to not be afraid to break a little in order to like form something greater. And yeah, this is very much a story that was born out of some personal walking through that, the shame and the guilt and the like not knowing, and just the, feeling disappointed in yourself and feeling like you should have done more. And then, yeah, getting to the other side. So I don't know if that fully answers your question, but yeah.
Well, and I think do you feel like there's more pressure now because of social media? Like when I grew up, I didn't have, I'm a little bit older than you, but I didn't have Facebook. I didn't have those things as a teenager. And I think you probably did. I don't know if you feel more pressure or not because you always have it,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. No, true. Yeah. I mean, I think it does up the pressure for sure. And comparison,
comparison is the thief of joy.
very much so. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. But I think I've always been a person who's put a lot of pressure on myself to be like, I mean, there's this picture of me from like when I was maybe 5 somewhere in the Denton Record Chronicle archives where I'm like, it's career day and I'm like, have this smock on and like a beret and a paintbrush. And I'm like, I'm going to be an artist. Like I've just always and like had a lot of expectations of myself and wanted a lot, and I think it can be a difficult thing, to, I'm better at it now than I've been in the past. But yeah, there's always been a lot of personal pressure as well.
Well,
With the
ambition
style.
is I think you said earlier about the journey, because if you have ambition, it drives you forward, but it's also you're generally always unsatisfied.
Yes.
which I think has been part of my journey is like, hey, listen, you set that bar, let's celebrate when you hit it versus just continuously setting the next bar and
Yeah.
being unsatisfied that you are not at the next bar versus just like
Yeah.
you did that thing, but
Are you
it's
familiar?
not-
There's this concept that this makes me think of when we're talking about all this called the hedonic treadmill. Have you ever heard of that
oh
phrase
no,
before?
tell me all about it.
Yeah. So it's basically this idea of like you have this goal and you're bent on reaching it, but then once you reach it, you're already like onto something else and you're never like arrived, kind of. Like you're always just like, and it can definitely be, as we're talking about, like, things that steal our joy. Yeah. Yeah. Something I'm
And it's
trying
called
to out of.
hedonic treadmill. Can you spell it?
HEDONIC and then treadmill.
Do you know the origination of it, like where it came from, or is it been around for a long time or a new term or?
I think it's been around. I want to say it's related to hedonism, and just like desires. And it's just, I forget where I listen to a lot of podcasts. So I think I heard about it on, like, I want to say Radio Lab or one of those kind of, sciencey, heady, or maybe Hidden Brain. Anyway.
God,
Yeah.
I love Hidden Brain.
I love Hidden Brain too. I really, just understanding the human condition is, I could hear about that stuff all day.
All day.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a meat.
That's a tricky thing. Just like actually feeling the, the accomplishments in the moments. And like you said, not just like trying to run to the next goalpost or what have you.
Before we go to what do you have plans next, was there ever a moment when you were like, okay, we're going to do this book, we're going to do this album. What the hey have I done to myself? This was this dumbest, craziest idea. Dark night of the soul.
Oh, yeah.
And when did you decide that you were like, personally for me, like the evenings, I'm like, you just don't ask me anything at night. Everything is bad. Get me in the morning. And I'm like, anything is possible.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very, very true. Yes, there were many moments where I didn't want to keep going,
Many moments.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the book was a lot to draw and a lot to write and a lot to, again, just to face, about yourself. Like, I think one of the hardest things about making art is just having to actually face what you've been trying to hide from, because there's nowhere to hide from it in art. At least in my experience, it's like the one place I go to put things that have no other place. So it was the actual work itself, and then also just the like mental work of, okay, like I'm gonna write about this and put this out there and be vulnerable and actually think about it myself. And then, I mean, also I'm a self-funded, just independent artist, so like having to have those moments where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go order the vinyl and the novels and just, do all of it, and kind of just because I want it to exist, And there was a lot of moments where it was hard to go on. The pandemic happened in the very beginning of us trying to like make this album, so that was like a moment of like, oh, okay, like like do we keep going? A lot of artists and friends of mine, kind of just stopped at that time, understandably so. And yeah, there were a lot of opportunities to quit.
That's a long time to manage a project. That's a long time. COVID was kind of crazy. It's been interesting to interview people how many after COVID there's like a before and after COVIDs at how everybody, I guess it was kind of like going to the desert during COVID.
Yeah.
You're going to find yourself because there's nowhere to go in your house.
No, absolutely. And it's one of those things too that like I think a lot of things that were working fine and just sort of like chugging along stopped, and then you're just like left with like, how do I keep going? What does that look like?
There's a quote from Hemingway that I love, and it's like, writing is easy. You just sit at a typewriter and bleed.
Yeah.
And I think about that when I write. I'm like, oh, am I bleeding enough for this piece, right? Because if it doesn't hurt just a smidge, then maybe you're not digging deep enough.
No, absolutely. I think if you're not a little uncomfortable, it's like, yeah, you probably could push a bit more.
And yet, how do you stay comfortable and uncomfortable?
That's a good question. I mean, I think there's like the kind of discomfort that I was just talking to a friend about this the other day. Like, how do you discern between the discomfort that is like growth and the discomfort that's like your body going like, I don't want this. This is not the right situation for me. Like, this isn't the life I'm supposed to lead. And I think probably at the center of it for me is like finding like self-trust and just like really listening to myself and being able to trust myself enough to know the difference. But yeah, like I think like I can kind of feel it in my bones when there's something that's like this is the discomfort of like pushing ahead, and this is the discomfort of like no, this is you're not being kind to yourself, and yeah, just trying to give yourself kindness and take care of yourself in all the ways really helps to, um, yeah, I be able to discern and understand.
What is obviously you had this you're not done with this project even though it's out there, right? Because now you're in the we've got to promote this. We've got to what does that look like? Are you self is this a self-published book too?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is. Yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
mean, some of it is like touring. I think of touring is almost like campaigning in a way where you're just like, I'm here and I exist and here it is. And yeah, so it's, we'll be doing that a little bit more in the spring. We did some in the summer. And then, yeah, things like this, interviews, and just, yeah, it's a myriad of things and I'm figuring it out as I go. It's very like, yeah, I don't know, like just kind of take whatever opportunities come up that seem right. Like, yeah,
Do you like gigging?
I do. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
It's a
being on
grind.
the road?
Yeah. It's a grind, but I love it. Yeah. Being on the road, especially the way we do it is not terribly glamorous. It's, you know, just I drive our van and we're just, you know, driving a lot and trying to find, I'm vegan, so trying to find food. Just like, where do we eat? And then just like loading all of our gear and playing a show and loading it out and like it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a challenge of sorts, but I love it. I love it so much.
I just heard about this app called I think it's Belly, Belli. Have you heard of it?
I haven't heard of it.
I haven't checked it out, but you talked about it's like a social media food app
Ooh.
where you the algorithm starts once you start like reviewing and you take pictures and you can talk to people, but it'll start making suggestions to you based on things that you go to and like.
Oh,
So maybe it could find your vegan spots. No?
that'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah. But I haven't tried it myself. I just heard about it. Um, so my ex was in a band for forever and ever and ever. And he always had these really fun stories about gigging. Many of them were at like the Dubliner down on Lower Greenville during St. Patty's Day and the crowd coming up and trying to steal the mic from him. And he would basically just like take the mic stand and he would tell me this. He was like, yeah, I would just like be like pop pop and pop them on the head. And they're like, oh wow. And they would laugh and it was fun. And I loved those stories.
Yeah.
What kind of do you have any good crowd stories or gig stories? And
Oh, I'm sure I do. Yeah. I mean, you never really know what it's going to be like. And something I love about being on the road is the cities that sort of surprise you. There's been times where like maybe we couldn't book the gig that we wanted in like a bigger city and we found somewhere in between two places. I remember a night like years ago where we were in Chehalis, Washington, which is like nowhere. I mean, it's between, I think, maybe Seattle and a story. I don't even know, just nowhere. And you would have thought we were like Led Zeppelin or something because nobody ever comes to that town. And so we were there and we're like giving it. I'm firmly like we're playing, 100% the best that we can every night. I don't care where we are. And yeah, it ended up being a great night, and you never would have thought. So yeah, I love playing towns that are a little overlooked, maybe because you go to these places where everyone's playing it. Like I love them as well. We played Seattle the next night; it was great. But the places that are sort of maybe forsaken a little bit, I really love playing because there's so much gratitude and excitement, and also often there's a girl that comes up to me. It's like I've wanted to play music and I didn't know, that like I don't see girls on stage, so it's like yeah, those moments really stand out to me of just random kind of off nights. Another one that comes to mind is just we played in this little hotel in Kansas again, Tonganoxie, I think was the name of the town. It's very, very small. I mean, tiny. It was a booker friend of ours had set it up, and I was kind of like, I don't know. And we got there, and it was this, yeah, great gig. And we went to a bar afterwards. It was like the only bar in town, and they had like corn on the bar, like fresh corn they just picked that you could just like eat, while you And they had like a dress up box full of clothes, and we all just like put them on and ate our corn. And they had like
Corn on the cob?
literal raw corn. Like,
What?
yeah. And it's just like, this is the most Kansas thing like I've ever seen, because we just, yeah, we were all dressed up crazy, and we like were eating our raw corn. And they had this like beer machine that was like a random beer. Like, you didn't know what you'd get. It was just a big lever, and you pull it and you get a random beer. I was like, what is this alternate dimension that we're in? Like, yeah, all of my bandmates who are guys are just wearing these dresses, and we were like, eating corn and like getting like every time they would pull the beer, that everyone would just like, drum on the thing, and be like, oh yeah, it's just like, what? Where are
Oh my gosh, you cannot write that. Like,
you
that's
can't?
amazing.
Yeah, and it was great. I mean, like moments like that, like yeah, I always feel very like after tours, I feel very just sort of like people are good, and there's a lot of people out there that like are just yeah, willing to open their hearts and homes and like towns to you, and just sort of like show you their magic. And it's just yeah, I feel very inspired by it, and I get a lot of out of that on like a spiritual level, just to see all the good people in
Mhm.
the world.
So there's um acting on stage. I have is very different than playing music on stage. Every actor is like, oh God, to be able to sing and be on stage is just like we all want. Like those of us who don't sing, we're like, God, that would be the best. But when there's a moment when you're doing a show and the theater becomes like it is so quiet. Nobody's
Yeah.
coughing, nobody's moving, nobody's doing anything. The energy is like totally translating back and forth.
Mm.
And then you're like, "Oh god, they're with me. They are
Yeah.
so with me right now." But I have to think when you're playing music, it probably sounds different. Does it?
It Yeah, it does, but I could very much relate to what you're saying. Like, and there's always, I do feel often like when we get on stage, there's this sort of like people are looking and going like, who's this? Am I in it? And you have to kind of like win them over a little bit, or like, yeah,
Mm.
just like reach them. And I often will choose like an opening song that I just feel like is very impactful and sort of an attack where it's like, here we are, like this is what it is. And like, come along if you want to, because I think it's very important to like work off of the energy of a room. And yeah, just try to get to that place that you're describing of connection and of feeling like everyone's, in it. And yeah, there's definitely those moments at live shows where you feel like, yeah, we're all right there.
Do the live shows support record sales? Or do the record sales support live shows, or is it just part of the whole like, do you make enough money on the road?
I mean, yeah, like
Yeah.
we could always make more, but I do feel like yeah, merch sales are a big part of yeah, how we're able to do it, because I otherwise and yeah, record sales, people love t-shirts. It's crazy to me. I'm like, here's a t-shirt, or here's this like magical, disc that's like all of our art. And they're like, I want the t-shirt. So it's like, like you just kind of yeah, it all is kind of symbiotic in terms of like, yeah, just sustaining and supporting. Yeah, and sometimes people will be like, oh yeah, I heard your record and I came out to the show. So yeah, it just yeah, it does go back and forth, like you're saying.
So we talked about some of the music, I mean, the podcasts that you're listening to. What other music do you like to listen to? Or what are you into right now?
I mean, yeah, it's all over the place. I've been listening to a lot of kind of like 60s, 70s, like French girly pop lately. I just love cooking and cleaning my house to that sort of thing. Linda Perhacs is someone I've been listening to a lot lately. She's 70s like psych folk artist. Very
Wow.
good.
Okay. Interesting combo. Psych.
Yeah, it's very folky, but then there'll be these moments where she just kind of like, genre bends and does these really interesting things. Um, there's this band Greenhouse that I've been listening to. There's no words, it's just music, and it's very calming and beautiful and just like kind of ethereal. But yeah, I like a lot of different things. I'm about to go see my friends. They have this band called Visceral Cuts, and they're gonna do a show that's like they basically create these songs that are inspired by like horror movies, and then they create projections and like this whole live show with it. So it's like yeah, I like all kinds of music.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
Now, are they in Denton? Do you gig much in Denton?
I think in Denton. They're like I think between two places actually. One of them lives in Washington, one's in Denton.
Denton has such a good music scene, right? Do you feel like that's been developed more recently, or is it just everybody's starting to know about it recently?
I think it's been around. I think the college, UNT with the jazz school really feeds the talent. Like there's always just new, fresh blood.
Hmm.
And then I think it's the kind of place. I'm gonna try to say this in like a kind way. Like there's not a ton of things to do, and I think that's a great place to create. In my
Hmm.
opinion, I think places where it's not like there's a mountain to climb, or there's not like all these. I mean, we've got a great like music and we have things to do, but I think it's kind of quiet and it's a good place to make art. Um, yeah, and it has been for a long time. I've been here since I was really young, and yeah, it's always been a really good place to make art.
That's awesome. So if people want to find you, how can they find you?
I think Instagram's probably the best way. At Claire Morales Music, and then our website too, clairemoralesmusic.com, and Claire Morales Design is the other Instagram. It's all my name, God, but yeah.
Do you have any gigs that you have coming up in the next month?
Let's see. I think I do have one in November. I want to say it's. Let me look at my calendar real quick. I want to say it's the 19th of November. Yes, it's a solo show actually, which it's kind of rare. I'm not often playing solo, but I love it because opportunity to play new songs, try new things, see what.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being with me today. This has been so fun. I really liked talking with you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, thanks for being here with us today. Please connect with us, share this podcast with a friend, like, subscribe, and we'll see you again soon.
Wanna get out of town, this place is grinding you down. You crave the sight and sound. The new has always caught you